NASCAR goes dancing in the desert. What's up, IBT family? Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We're going to be talking all about Phoenix, the first short track of the season. Let's lock in our DFS rankings and best bets. It's the IBT Backroad coming at you.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
All right, and welcome down the back road in between media's NASCAR betting and DFS show. It is Thursday, March 7th, 2024. And yes, we're already nearly a month into the NASCAR season. The Cup, the Xfinity Series, they're heading out to Phoenix, and we got you covered from a fantasy and betting angle tonight. My name is Seth Woolcock, and joining me just across town is someone I consider both a friend and a colleague, and someone who's also contributed more to our team success in the NASCAR betting industry than anyone. And I know I'm not the only one to say that, but guys, please give it up for the one and only Derek Yoder, host of the NASCAR betting preview show, host of All Things Go, and the director of partnerships with Front Stretch. Derek, how are we doing tonight, man?
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that. My ego is a little bit bigger now. So hopefully I get out the door when I go upstairs. I'm doing well, man. Really excited about this weekend. Glad the season's here. I mean, your first sentence there about how we're almost a month in already makes it feel like it's flying by.
I know.
But no, it's going to be a lot of fun. The fact that we have Xfinity and the Cup Series out at Phoenix this weekend with some interesting angles for the Cup Series. I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with me.
Yeah.
Elliot out on work this week, and Rod had a function for his kid. So fuck your job, Elliot. Fuck your kid, Rod. No, I'm just kidding. But I appreciate you being an auxiliary member of our team and stepping in tonight. And Derek, it's going to be a fun one, man, because we do have a lot of storylines brewing in the industry right now. We got a new short track package we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Tonight, the schedule for the listeners, we're going to be taking a look back at Las Vegas, what we can learn and take away from that race. We're going to break down Phoenix, and then we're going to do some DFS rankings and give our best bets at the end of the show as well. I want to shout out the IBT family. Everyone, thank you guys so much for tuning in, being a part of this. Looks like we got Lana in the chat already. Hey, guys. Good to see you, Lana. Thanks so much for making us part of your Thursday evening. And Derek, we have a little bit of a goal here right now. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before Dover. Ellie and I are trying to go out to Dover here in a couple weeks. So we want to do something fun at the track, maybe get a driver or someone cool out there, maybe a media personality to do a giveaway with us. So the closer we can get to 1,000 here, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you, everyone who's making this goal come true. And Derek, before we break down what was going to be a really fun race out there in Phoenix, let's look back here at Las Vegas and close the door there. Mm-hmm. All right. Las Vegas, man. Kyle Larson leads 191 laps, air blocks Tyler Reddick to the win. William Byron then takes a trash bag and a silver bullet to the dome, out for the race, comes back and mixes it up, gets the top 10 out of it. But then pit road issues were kind of at least the storyline of my weekend from a betting angle, Derek. Kyle Busch does not win the truck race despite being nearly a even money favorite because of that. Ross Chastain then gets mixed up on pit road as well. He comes back, fights back for a top 5 finish. And then Austin Cindric, another guy I was heavy on. Disappointing day for him. Bubba Wallace kind of in that same mix. Stuck lug nut. He gets taken to the back. Only thing we see from him all day is him pushing Tyler Reddick to a near victory. Chris Bell, Chris Buescher, all around. Kind of a shit show if you're on any of those guys we mentioned. But if you're on Larson, if you're on Reddick, a good weekend overall, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if you were on them, I mean, Larson, let's start with him first, right? Like going back to the fall race where he won stage 1, stage 2
Yeah.
and the race, and then backs it up with doing the same thing. Kind of incredible that he was able to do that. So those guys now essentially have a test session, just like Jimmy Johnson used to have back in the day. They have all the summer, the rest of the spring to really just tune up. And a team like that really needs to maximize wins and stage points more than I think any of the top tier teams, because when we get to Atlanta, not a track that Larson is
Yep.
fond of, or that style, I should say, just given his track record. And then you look at Watkins Glen, another little bit of a wild card event there, and then you're going right into Bristol, where he could obviously win. Bristol, he could obviously win Watkins Glen as well, but this is a team that needs to do what MTJ did last year and score as many points as possible, because it's not like the start of the playoffs are their strengths.
Yeah, man. And it's good to see like at least Kyle Larson put together an entire weekend, because we don't see that out of him a lot of
Yeah.
times. Sometimes he's not the most clutch when it comes to qualifying in places he should be. Still gets on the front row there and kind of has a perfect day. I had a couple takeaways here and just like
Okay.
kind of some lessons to learn.
Yep.
One was
Like
that
that.
pit road execution, Derek, I think is huge right now. Like, especially when we get back to these intermediate and these short tracks, you can go a lap or two down very, very easily. And if you don't have a good pit crew, or you're just a driver who happens to speed or do something on pit road like Kyle Busch all the time, like it's something that should be factored into his odds and factored into our betting decisions. And also, like, I feel like early season here, it's a fool's errand to get invested with one driver like I did last week. I was so heavy on Christopher Bell, and it translates to my first red in the card loss on the season.
Yeah, I mean, when you're putting faith in a guy like Bell, you're gonna think most times it's gonna work out. He finished second in the fall, and
Right.
I mean, a little bit of a bad break, right? Like barely touched. In stage 1. I have my pylon here where I'm looking at everything. In stage 1, he finished 10th. So right there, you're thinking, okay, we could be all right, because he came back from having that tire damage all the way up to finish 10th. He was the
Yeah.
fastest car in stage 1, like coming back through the field, and then obviously spinning out, wrecking. So I feel for you there, but there are the pit road element, and Denny Hamlin talked about this on Actions Detrimental this week, where he said, "Hey, listen, we still know we have issues." Tyler Reddick said, same shit, different year,
Yes.
referring to his pit crew, and we know that the issues that these guys have had. And Denny actually laid out and said, "Hey, listen, Gibbs has premier tier 1 pit crews. We still have guys that we're bringing on almost like a free agency of that guy's pretty good, that guy's good." So they're still assembling. But even when it comes to pit practice at JGR, they still are only getting peanuts of time, because that's not their facility. That's who's housing the pit row or pit crews. So it's going to be an interesting thing, especially with some of these tracks. Like, let's look at a short track like we have Phoenix, but then you have Martinsville, you
Yeah.
have
Oh, yeah.
Bristol. You make any mistakes, especially not just driver error, but you make mistakes from a pit road element, that's going to cost you laps, and you're done. Your day is done. There's not going to be enough cautions to come back from that. So I really like what you were saying there about pit. That's something we really got to think about.
And we also just in general have to keep our head on a swivel as we continue
True.
here. Like, we
Yeah.
never know what's going to happen. We saw it last week with William Byron, and luckily, if you were on some type of top 10 with him, that's still cash. But I imagine most people probably in the top 5 market
Hmm.
invested or on the outright. So, just something to keep in mind there. Like, we're still going to be taking some big swings, especially this week at a track like Phoenix that is traditionally more predictable.
Hmm.
Anything can happen. So we kind of need to keep that in mind as we're allocating units down the line here.
I'll also say this: Ross Chastain starting in the back, coming to finish 4th,
Yes.
was in contention late.
Yes.
That was really impressive to see. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like the passing element came back to us in this Gen 7 now era, where last year we were always hearing about the drivers talk about can't pass, can't pass.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, obviously when you're doing aero blocking, you can't get around a car because he's blocking the air, which is crazy for us to
Yeah.
even think about.
Yeah.
But to see drivers like Bell, like Byron, and like Chastain really kind of come up through the field. Let's use Gragson as well. Gragson started 30th. Denny Hamlin started 28th. These are all guys that came back from bad starting positions and worked their way up through the field. That is another element that we really got to be thinking, especially on these mile and a half. So I'm going to be looking for that as well.
And something to keep in mind from a DFS perspective, because you're going to get those differential points if you draft the people towards the
Yeah.
back of the field and they move up. And, I think it's something that we finally got a decent session of practice last week, I felt like. And I almost think I kind of weighed that too heavily. Like, I think I weighed practice and qualifying too heavily, at least. Like I went in then guns a blazing again, and just luckily I think I got more heavily invested in Larson, but there were some red flags that I did. Like, I
Yep.
jumped more on Bell. I got more on Bell. I was like, I think Bell's gonna be fast. He had the 5 and the 10 lap averages in practice. And I think I just weighed that too heavily. So
Mhm.
maybe it's a lesson learned for me moving forward a little bit.
Yeah, well, that practice session was a little wonky as well with Priest spinning out on the
Yeah,
fourth lap, which negates all the times before him. And in that Group A, having so many guys out on the track, their tires,
true.
engines already are hot, really kind of made practice a little interesting to figure out who really was good.
Mhm,
And in 20 minutes, as you know, and you've talked about it before, we can't really see a whole lot other than 20 minutes of a
mhm.
practice where we're going to watch a race on Sunday, which is 3.5 hours. And I was telling Chris Wormy and we were talking before he did the pre-race poll. And I said, what is considered a long run at Las Vegas? Because when we look in practice and we say on the long run, this driver did X, well, comparison in a stage one might be 80 laps or 86 laps. Well, 20 laps that maybe they got in practice, that's a short run.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing that we have to think about. Now, this week I'm excited because we got a little bit more time. I believe it is 50 minutes that the teams will have to be
Yes.
able to practice. So, really looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead. Let's turn the page then, and get a
Yep.
little more specific and talk about Phoenix here in the horizon
Sure.
forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right. And I want to start by talking about this new short track package. And Derek, it was a real blessing last night on your program. We had Brian Murphy, who joined you. He's the quality control specialist over at RFK. He joined you discussing how this short track package is really going to impact us. And in layman's term, this package was kind of come about because NASCAR's biggest downfall in the next gen era has kind of been these short tracks. And really, this is supposed to get them to slide around a little bit better. We had a test in the offseason. Chris Bell, Buescher, Kyle Larson, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoie, all out there testing this. But can you talk a little bit about what Brian said to you yesterday and how he thinks this impacts us from a fantasy and a betting perspective, Derek? Because I was a little taken back, honestly, by his answer.
Yeah, so essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian is my co-host on the All Things Go podcast, so I tend to not tune him out. So hopefully, I didn't miss anything that he said. But he was saying to us and to the community listening yesterday on your program here, where essentially don't expect much because there's a lot of changes, but the changes probably aren't going to result in what we as fans believe to be the case. It's exciting for us to talk about, but inside the garage, it's really not going to determine much of a change. I don't know if the driving element's going to change much. I think we're going to see the same players he was saying really do well. The teams we're going to see as well all do about the same efforts there. So it's not necessarily like a team or a manufacturer are going to come out of the gates and do much better. We've seen Chevy win 3 races now in a row in Cup to start the year, and I anticipate maybe them having a little bit of an edge because as you have a new short track package, and then you have teams like Ford and Toyota introducing a new car, that's a lot to wrap your head around. So I think Chevy might have a little bit of an advantage this week. So did I hit the nail on the head? He was saying all in all, don't expect
I
much.
Yeah, I think you absolutely did. And to me, I've been circling Kyle Larson for this race even before the season started because I said, oh, he's testing here. And I like Larson already at short track. So I thought the kind of stars were aligning, but I'm still keeping it in the back of my mind. But I think you absolutely kind of hit the nail on the head. And we had Stan and a couple people in the chat last week asking us, hey, what do the new bodies mean for Toyota? What do they mean for Ford at Las Vegas? And I didn't really, take it into account in my betting. I wasn't a positive bettor last week, so maybe that hurt me a little bit. But in general, we saw the same players that we always see at Las Vegas. And I think we're going to see the same thing at Phoenix. And specifically, the people who are generally good at Phoenix, Derek, they're also good at these other shorter flat tracks like Richmond, like Gateway, like New Hampshire. Are you factoring in those tracks at all or any other tracks?
The only track I'm factoring in is Gateway. When I was in the track, I want to say it was 2 years ago, I asked Chase Briscoe directly because we were trying to figure out like the year, right? Like the new Gen 7. It was the first championship at Phoenix in that Gen 7 car. So 2022 it would have been. And I asked him point blank, like, what is the track we should be looking at? What do you look at? What does SHR look at? And he said, hands down, it's Gateway. So I really look at guys that have been good at Gateway, translates for whatever reason. Kurt Busch kind of had similar comments at one point, which confirmed it. When you look at New Hampshire, you're looking at more of a higher wear on the tires. So that's a little hard. And, a lot of people look at Richmond. Richmond's way worse when it comes to tire wear. Like, it is a whole different ball game. The look is the same of the track, but the tire wear. So I only look specifically at Gateway. And maybe for me, I try to just keep it simple and just look at one track.
That's great. That's great information there. And we do have 2 years of next gen data here at Phoenix that we will primarily be factoring in here. You've been out in Phoenix, as you kind of alluded to the last couple of years, Derek, for that championship race. What are the vibes out there like? And in general, is there anything else you took away from a betting or fan perspective?
Vibes are awesome. I mean, the staff at Phoenix Raceway, and we were able to share this last night that they still had limited tickets available. Go to phoenixraceway.com and buy your tickets. If anybody listening is out there, you've got to go. I mean, the venue is beautiful. I know we as fans, we really want Homestead to come back and be the championship race. You get all that. I was in Homestead last year. I see exactly why everybody wants it. I would agree. But when you look at a venue, when you look at an area, destination like Arizona and in Avondale, where the race is at, the track puts on a show. There's great food everywhere, great atmosphere, vibes are high. But there is also a lot of passing or action, I should say, throughout the race. You do have guys that are really working the wheel to make things happen. And it's not a chance race where it's not a wild card. You're able to figure out kind of quickly who's going to be good. So another reason why we as bettors like to bet on these types of races.
I love it. I love it. Checking in with the chat. Looks like we got Ozzy hanging out with us. What's up, Ozzy? Good to see you. And another member of the IBT family, Katie. Hey, Katie, thanks for hanging out with us. Derek, looking at the schedule this weekend, if you're on the East Coast, you're gonna have some time to kill here early in the morning. 3:10 p.m. Eastern time, Saturday qualifying, Xfinity race going off at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll definitely be watching that one on DVR. And then the race on Sunday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Let's look at a couple of trends that I thought were interesting here. I'm seeing a lot of fucking love for these Toyotas right now on Twitter. And I don't get it. I don't get it, Derek, personally, because Hendrick has swept the Phoenix poles last year. Penske swept him the year before. JGR's last pole here was in 2019. And if you're looking at the race as a whole, Chevy and Ford have split the Cup Series wins in the next gen era. No team has won more than one race. So SHR, Hendrick, Trackhouse, Penske split it. What do you think about the manufacturer difference? Is there a heavy lean for you? Because I saw some Toyota love today, and I was a little bit taken back by it.
I think there's love and argument to be made for Chevy, HMS specifically, and you can also throw in Ross, who has a win, got a win at the championship race down in November. And I won't reveal my sources, but they did say that Gibbs has an advantage. I don't want to say distinct advantage, but an advantage going into this weekend. So probably why you saw a lot of love towards the TRD drivers. And, we talked about it last night. A guy like Tyler Reddick is a name that came up a lot, but those Gibbs drivers are going to have, I think, some hot rods this week.
Why? What's the advantage? What are we? You're breaking some.
Well, Well, the advantage is, when all the cars were and all the drivers and teams were out the test, yes, everybody got to see the data, everybody got to see all the numbers. And when you look at the short track package, especially how these cars go, and Toyota loves to drive in hotter conditions. So this is going to be warmer than any of the tracks that we've been to yet. And this is going to really kind of play into that realm of, okay, we saw how good they are on these types of tracks. I know Chris Buescher won at Phoenix, or I'm sorry, Richmond last year towards the end. From a Ford perspective, that's where my mind goes in thinking those dark horses there. But Toyota they get a lot faster the hotter it is. So I would
Okay.
I'd look at that.
Okay, interesting. Looking at a couple other trends here, 27 of the 29 Cup Series winners have at least won or have at least competed in 2 or more races here at Phoenix. So it kind of discredits some of the younger guys a little bit. Like, I know we're gonna have to stick a couple of them in our lineups as our dart throws just because where
Sure.
everything's priced, but I'm not going out. Like, it's a chalk week for betting, and I'm not gonna fight that this week. And also, winners come from the front row 20% of the time here, the pole 15% of the time, from the top 10, 60% of the time, Derek. So qualifying is going to matter here. While it's not the all end it, be end it, but it's still going to matter.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely going to matter. And let's go back to the point we made about 20 minutes ago where we were saying about pit road and pit stalls and all that. Again, if you can be down towards the end, right in that turn 1 area, you have an advantage as it is. So being able to qualify well, and we saw it, especially with these restarts and how the track layout at Phoenix is so unique and so different, where these guys are able to go down as low as the inside wall to really get away from some of these guys. That really holds a good advantage as well. So practice qualifying are going to be monumental this week. And that's why on my podcast, I do the post-race, post-practice and qualifying show. And this week I'm very excited because we're going to have some good stuff to talk about.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Let's round it out here before we jump into the tire tiers with our Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week. This is presented by iFantasyRace.com. iFantasy Race, guys, I've been telling you about it for a couple of years. It's where I get a ton of my data, everything from our total speed rankings to the more general loop data, and also just like the everything you need from like pricing, general schedule of the weekend. Everything, Ryan's got it over there. So make sure you're checking out iFantasyRace.com. This week was a really fun one. Joey Logano, when you look at Joey Logano's 18th position finish from last fall, you surely have to think this is an asterisk mark result. Unfortunately, it's not. Logano was a dud in the desert, and that finish is legit. So usually asterisk mark drivers of the week, when we do them here, Derek, they're a driver you should keep in mind who actually might have been better than their finish dictates. This is the opposite way around. Joey Logano was about as good as that finish dictates last year. Any interest in Logano or thoughts on him as Ryan points this out to us? Oh, I think you're muted as well, Derek.
Yeah, that would have happened. Last year in the spring, he started 16th, finished 11th. In the fall, started 17th, finished 18th. So we know these guys have been qualifying really well. I mean, he's got 2 poles in 3 races, so
yeah,
that's not too bad. Yeah. I mean, I would say that there's guys like that you have to look at. I mean, his teammate's been ultra good here, and Ryan Blaney obviously won the championship without winning the race. But if you go back just a little bit further than that, in 2022, seems like this 22 team had what it took because they qualified in the top 10. They finished both times in the top 10, including a win. So I wouldn't underestimate this dark horse team.
Okay. All right. A little bit of patience preached there to me. I like it.
That's right.
Let's go ahead, Derek. Let's break this down from a DFS perspective here with our tire tiers. All right, we're back with the tire tiers, and how this works is we're looking at DraftKings and Fantrax pricing and just trying to get you guys basically our rankings, our tiers, who we like, who we don't like, who we're fading, who we are going to have as one of our core plays this week. Derek, I'm going to give the top of the board to you, man. I definitely feel like there's a clear top tier, but looking at the pricing, is there anyone that sticks out to you as the clear 101 for you?
Well, I think you have to go with a guy, Ryan Blaney, right? In his last 6 starts here at Phoenix, has an average finish of 4.0. Of those 6 starts, we're talking about 4 races in the Gen 7 era. You can't ignore that. Just coming off a championship here at the racetrack. A lot of good vibes. This is one of the best cars we talked about 4 months ago going into this race. And I feel like taking him and having him in your lineup and building around him, key.
Yep, I'm with you there, man. I'm trying to get Ryan Blaney pretty much every single lineup
Yep.
I have this week, and I'm usually not a huge Blaney guy. Like he's someone I just
Yeah.
don't usually factor into my lineups or my betting cards all that much. But I'll be heavy on him this week. I'll also be heavy on the chalk once again at 11.5. Kyle Larson. Hard to get away from Mr. Kyle Larson and everything he's been doing this season. Goes out a dominating performance at Las Vegas. I mean, very clean run from start to finish. And when you look at his Phoenix position finishes the last couple of years, 3rd, 4th, and 9th are the only finishes here in the next gen era where he didn't blow an engine. I'll talk more about him later, but I like Kyle Larson a lot this week. It's a shit ton of money. It's a shit ton of money to put him in there on DraftKings. A little more leverage on FanDuel and FanTrax, but in general, I'll pay up for Larson, even though it's a high price.
Yeah, so you're paying 11.5 for Larson, where I paid 11.2 for
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney. The next guy I want to look at, I mean, if you're not interested in getting those two and maybe saving a little bit on the top, you got to go with William Byron at 11,000 on DraftKings. I think that's a guy obviously won this race here last year, won the Daytona 500, has 7 wins since winning the race last year at Las Vegas. I mean, how can you bet against a guy that is arguably one of the best drivers? The team is in sync. So I would say you got to put Byron up there with those guys.
I've said this on multiple occasions. I get burned by Byron all the time, but I cannot discredit what he has done here at Phoenix. He will be in my lineups. He has forced his way into my betting cards as well. And keep in mind as well, guys, he'll see some double duty this week. He'll be in the Xfinity Series race on Saturday. So
Great point.
Potentially give him some more a more advantage there as well.
Yeah.
I will go with Ross Chastain. It's going to be chalky as hell as well because he's coming in at a really fair price tag, honestly, over there on DraftKings, all the way down at 9,000. Like when you compare that to William Byron, you're getting $2,000 salary relief for Ross Chastain. And what has he done? Oh yeah, he did. Not only did he win the championship race in a time when we didn't even think that was possible for a guy not in the championship, but also has been very, very good here at Phoenix in general. First, and then he had that 24th place finish in the spring last year, Derek. But if you remember, Denny took him out. He said, "Hey, if I'm going down, I'm going down. You're coming down with me." And then a third and second place here in 2022. So Ross Chastain, give me the Busch Latte car.
Yeah, I think you might have another driver or two here in that tier group, and I think. Although I have not been high on this guy because I feel like since the playoffs started, that team really took a downturn for whatever reason after winning the regular season. And then this year, I came in saying, if this team doesn't pick it up, if they continue to struggle, this is going to be a nightmare season for them. So give me the 19, give me Martin Truex, and I know you're paying 9.8 for him, 9,800 bucks for him. So, it's a guy that you got to trust. And I was just talking about TRD, and I was just talking about how Toyotas are going to be good. And we know he's good at places like Richmond. And I feel like that you got to have him in that tier group this week.
Yeah, he ran strong at Gateway as well. And you said that was one of your favorite comps. So I don't mind Martin Truex Jr. here. He's another guy you kind of just gloss over his driver averages. You just gloss over his general statistics for this track. He's towards the top of it, so I don't mind him there. Who else do you like for this A tier? Because I'm having trouble putting anyone else in there, but I think there might be a name that you do like here.
Yeah, I would say that if we are going to go with that Gateway style of thinking, then you got to put Kyle Busch up there. And I know this is going to be a little different than most. This is, our least priced guy right here at 9,200. But Kyle's good at Gateway. And I believe this team they show glimpses of championship caliber. And then they show like they are not even able to crack in the top 10, or Kyle is in over his head, spins out, kind of a deal. So I have to put Kyle Busch up there for the Gateway reasons and the belief in this team. Once they start getting some momentum, they're going to be hard to stop.
Yes, absolutely. We got Troy asking, are we live? We are live, Troy. I promise you that, man. We are not
We are.
recorded tonight. We are in fact live. Let's drop down to the B's then. And I'll throw a guy out there who I'm slowly
Please.
getting worried that I have not invested in him. I heard him talked about on your show last night, Derek. I heard him talked about on the NASCAR Gambling podcast with Rod and Cody earlier this week. Tyler Reddick, man, he is for some reason really fucking good in these spring races at Phoenix. Dog shit, absolute dog shit in the fall. I don't know if he's just checked out by that time. But Tyler Reddick, really good here in the spring. We know he has some pit crew issues, but still at the price tag you're getting him, I'm all right with playing him, especially at 8,500. It feels like a bargain there for me. How are you feeling about Tyler Reddick and this 23-11 team in general?
I'm higher on Reddick and Rob Cornelius, who we had on last night. Great follow on Twitter and a great guy to do his shows with. He said he was higher on Reddick, and that was music to my ears because I am as well. I don't feel like I can put Reddick yet in that A group.
Yeah,
but I feel like, Seth, and this is maybe a good moment to clip this part of the show. When we return here in November, Reddick is going to be in that driver A group. So I like that you called him out first. Give me his boss next, Denny Hamlin. Another Toyota. This just goes back to, hey, when you gotta have a guy that's going to get all that he can. And I know that you said, hey, he took Ross out last year with him. Ross was going with him. Late restart. Just kind of come with me, my guy. Hamlin's finish did not dictate what it should have been. And, I'm going to go with Hamlin here. I think you could easily make an argument in tier 1, but can't leave him out this far.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm cool with Hamlin slotting there into the tier B. I think also just like it's going to be chalky as hell again at 7,800, but Chase Briscoe, if we're dipping down, why is this guy so good at Phoenix? Why is this guy so good, Derek? He's won in the next gen era. Didn't have 2 great performances last year here, but was running inside the top 10 in both those races. Ended up having some issues at Phoenix too in the fall when I was on him, of course. But still, overall number 6 in the next gen total speed rankings at Phoenix. Like, call it an anomaly. Call it. I don't know if Chase Briscoe just has some real good friends that when he goes down to Phoenix, he's getting rowdy. I don't know what it is, but he's a star here. He's a star at Phoenix.
Well, when you get your first win at a venue, any venue, it's this way in sports, right? You just feel more comfortable. Like if you go out and play golf, Seth, and you always go to this course and you're going to play well. You're always going to play well. There's really no bad shots. Well, same thing for Briscoe when it comes to Phoenix. That's where he got his first win. I mean, when you go back there, you always got your first win there. So you're going to see the track a little bit different. You're going to arrive. You're going to have a little bit more swagger. I mean, SHR might run like shit, but Briscoe, might be able to maximize the finish better than some of his teammates. And I think he learned a lot from the greatest driver ever at Phoenix, which was Kevin Harvick, who had over 20 straight top 10 finishes, 20 straight. That blows your mind. Seth, that's 10 years. 10 years a driver. I mean, how old were you 10 years ago? I know how old I was. I can't believe that this man started that 10 years ago. So he learned a lot there. So I can get the argument that you would put up for him. Give me Joey Logano. I was debating between 2. Give me Logano. Again, goes back to the gateway conversations, but also goes back to, hey, this guy in 2022 was able to finish top 10, score win, qualified top 10 in both. No reason this guy should be left off this far.
I like it. I will also throw Chris Buescher up here as a little bit of a leverage play for me this week, actually.
I agree.
Chris Buescher burned a lot of people last week. When you look at just like his general fantasy points per game this year, 18. He's had some bad finishes that just really haven't, represented how he's ran overall this season. He was a top 5 car here last time we were here. So I like Chris Buescher a lot this week. And you look at this style of track, like him and Brad are usually pretty close on most track styles. He kind of edges Brad out when it comes to these short, flat tracks. He's actually number 8 here in the combined total speed rankings for this style track in 2023. Brad's all the way down at 12. So I like Buescher a bit more this week. Anyone else you like here for the B tier?
Yeah, so let's mix it up a bit, and I think this could be an attention grabber for the show, which is what we want, right? We want some views. So I see how many listeners you currently have. So curious to see what emojis maybe we can get in the chat. But I want you to put the number 4 car of Josh Berry up on this Group B list. We could have went another direction, and we're gonna seem very silly for not having a certain
Wow.
driver up there. But Josh Berry in the 4 car again. This car was driven by Harvick, but when we look at Berry, and yes, there's a rookie stripe on his back bumper, but this guy raced and competed in the Cup Series numerous times last year. Almost won at Richmond, although there was some pit strategies there. Still, almost came away with a win. Very familiar. Short track prowess is his kind of forte. So I think a guy like Berry is going to win people a lot of money in the DFS community.
I love that call, Derek. And honestly, too, he was in Chase's car last year at this track,
Yeah.
finished 10th, better than any finish that Chase Elliott has ever had in the next gen era in the number 9 car. So it's interesting enough there. And then factor in, man, like Rodney Childress knows how to set a car up for Phoenix.
Sure does.
Probably better than any crew chief in the garage right now. I'm expecting Rodney Childress to take some fucking swings, get Josh Berry probably the finish of his season, in my opinion, here at Phoenix. So I like the call a lot from you. Honestly, I think I was sandbagging a little bit on Barry before you pointed him out.
Oh,
So good call there.
no, I like hearing that. So I think that rounds out the Group B, or unless you had another
Yeah.
driver.
No, I think you're dead on there. Troy saying Reddick is becoming great at
Yep.
all types of tracks. Look out for him next year and definitely going to win a couple this year. Yeah, I'm with you there, Troy.
I got something for that then. For anybody that's listening, what you should do is you should go out and look at championship offers, whether it's round of 4 or I'm sorry, going in, making it into the final 4 or championship, and lay a little coin on Reddick. I mean, he was 18-1 to start the year. I don't know what his current number is, but if it's greater than that or even 18-1, it's still worth putting some money down and having the opportunity to cash a championship ticket later in the year. So good call out, Troy.
Yeah, good call out, Troy. Good call out, Derek. Let's jump down to the C tier here, Derek. And,
Yeah.
and is there anyone that's jumping out to you?
No.
I definitely feel like there's one guy on the list that we haven't thrown out yet that just out of respect, we should probably put Christopher Bell there.
Put him.
Number 5 in the short flat total speed rankings from a year ago. I'm feeling burned. I'm feeling hurt, but I think that just makes more leverage for others.
Yeah. Chris Bell was the obvious choice. So
Yeah.
there's not much to say, about that. We can continue. He
And
shouldn't be in Group C.
any more SHR cars for you? Who do you think belongs here in C?
No, I don't. I don't buy into. I mean, people can make an argument maybe for Priest, Gregson. I don't think any of them deserve to be in this. They're Group D.
Okay, we'll throw him in there right now. And who do you
Okay.
have here for C?
So I got Chase Elliott. Put him up there. I really like you got to put Bowman, Gibbs. Those are obvious names as well. When we start clearing those guys out, who else do we go with? You got to put Eric Jones up there in that Group C list, and Brad K. And I really like having that. Also, then throwing McDowell in there, so it's a little bit more of a weighted group compared to some of the others, but that just feels correct. Bubba Wallace as well, TRD. We talked about that. The rest of the guys that we have listed here, they can either go in F or D. I mean, Cindric, you're not going to get much out of him. Dylan is a very hit or miss guy, although hotter conditions, he does tend to do a little bit better. LaJoy, Haley, the 16 car, Burton, those guys, everybody else, put them in F.
Okay.
Suarez too.
So sort out a couple things you said here.
Okay.
Chase Elliott. I am just like not interested in Chase Elliott at 8,800. Can you make a case that he should be ahead of these guys and not towards the end of the C tier? The guy just has not had great finishes here at Phoenix since his 2020 championship run here. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm a little scared of him. And Brad Keselowski, I don't really know if I can get behind Brad that much either. Like he's definitely a C tier driver, but where in the C's, Derek? Just kind of given his overall state, like he's a little bit wily this year, man. Like finally kind of got it under control, got a 13th place finish last week, but just has not been a great season for Brad. So like I have trouble trusting him a little bit right now, heading into Phoenix.
There's a lot of nerves with that 16 because, last week they were running nearly last most of the race and then ended up coming back and finishing 13th. A bit lucky with that finish, but, there's a lot of nerves going in because they haven't had good finishes. Obviously, a 13th last week is fine. It's not up to their standards. So if they don't perform this week, this is going to be a struggle going into these next few months. But I think how it's written out and how it's labeled is good. Bell, I think you got to put Chase up there, just given his equipment. Bowman in third in the Group C. But Gibbs, Gibbs is a guy that we could be easily putting up in B. We could be putting somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you put Gibbs wherever you want in this list.
Okay.
But, it's one of those things where who's really trusting a guy like Gibbs right now. But when you do look at it, in his last 4 starts, he has 3 top 10 finishes. Now, granted, they're not all in the Cup Series, I believe, but he knows how to get it done here. And he won a championship here before. So maybe there's a little good juju that way.
Gibbs has been super consistent from a DFS perspective as well. 26 at Daytona, 52 at Atlanta, and then 48 last week. So I don't mind Gibbs at all. I would potentially even put him above Elliott there. So I like that call out. I do want to talk about Noah Gragson quickly. Like, I think he is a D driver, but he's like, I was high on Gragson last week. He was one of the best plays I had all last week, carried a couple lineups. I was not expecting it.
Love it.
But Eric Almirola's had some success at Phoenix in the past, and it seems like Gragson at least got the most speed out of the car last week. Obviously, it's his home track, so I don't hate Gragson. And I don't hate Priest, but Priest is going to be super fucking chalky just because we know he's a good short track driver. So I don't mind that call it out for you either. And but I just haven't seen it from Priest this season.
No, I haven't either. I don't expect much. Gregson's he's a dog. He's gonna get everything he can out of it, just like Priest. But it's tough at a short track. These guys, I don't think they're going to be the ones shining. Now, if they come out and finish top 10, dude, I'll eat my words with that one. That would be phenomenal. And I want nothing more than the best for guys like Ryan, who I've met and talked to a decent amount, and Noah as well. So, but there's just it's not the team's strength at a place like this. So we'll get to some mile and a halves for them.
Yeah, I will throw Carson Hocevar up here in D, and I'm going to move Corey LaJoy up there just because he did do some testing here in the offseason as well for whatever reason. I know his finishes have been dog shit, but I think he could do a little bit better.
Never know.
And dude, Hocevar Derek is freaking kind of nice in DFS. 31 points last week, 44 at Atlanta. Obviously, he was way in the negative at Daytona after starting towards the front and finishing very last very quickly. But I do like what we're seeing out of Hocevar, man. That was an impressive run last week for the kid.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he's fast. I mean, the kid's got talent. And so, if he can just put everything together, and he had some races last year where he got the crack in the Cup Series, which was great. But if he could be a surprise, that could be a good call out.
I'm gonna move up. Daniel Suarez there as well. I think he's kind of just a guy we forgot about a little bit here. But if we Chastain,
I didn't forget about him.
There we go. But if we do like Chastain, you can't totally roll out Suarez. But don't mind it there. Let's just talk about these F drivers we kind of mentioned here. Zane Smith, he's been known to get it done in Phoenix at different times in different series, but not a ton of speed that we've seen out of that car so far. Kind of been involved in some incidences. John Hunter Nemechek is probably my favorite F tier driver, I would say. You don't double duty, doesn't mean anything for you.
No, I'm with you. No, this is good. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. JHN I like a little bit. Oh, dude, it gets tough after that. Ricky Stenhouse, I'll throw him on the board. Just, respectful thing. Shout out JTG, baby, and my boy Brad over there.
What's up, Brad?
It's hard to rank any of these other guys. Can you even make a case that any of these guys should be on the board, Derek? Todd Gilliland, respect? Respect?
No.
Okay.
No. I can't make an argument for any of them. I guess you want me to make an argument. I could Haley, you could put him up there, and you could put Gilliland up there. Other than that, I don't want anything to do with the 31.
Yep.
Harrison Burton, if this was 1960, like we'd be talking about the Wood brothers in a good
Yeah.
deal. The
Yeah.
16 car, Derek Kraus, nah. And then the 15 car, no.
Kaz Gralla, baby. Kaz.
I love
Hey,
Kaz. I scored a
dude.
top 10 with Kaz at the Daytona Road Course back during COVID, but like in the
Wow.
3 car. But Kaz, it's not you, man. It's the equipment.
Yeah, he's actually had a couple decent runs this year too, Kaz.
I
Like
know,
I've
but
been,
this is a whole different ball game now.
yeah, he's the
So it's
bottom of the barrel. $5,000 for Kaz. Did score 51 at Atlanta, but yeah, this is a short track now. Kaz is probably going to be
yeah.
towards the end of the cars. It's still, if he's still running at the end. So Derek, I appreciate you breaking it down from a DFS perspective. Let's round things out here with parking garage props and our best bets of the weekend.
Love it.
All right, and parking garage props. We usually start here, Derek, by getting a first look and impressions of the book and how we're feeling that the offerings were this week. And the one word I could describe this is fast moving. I was literally, in the midst of my research, I had bets queued up. Like for instance, there was a over under 10.5 for Ross Chastain out there on Caesars. I was looking at it, it was minus 110. By the time I was confident, yeah, this is definitely going to hit, I want to get invested in it, it was minus 160. Like I felt like everything was moving so quickly. Same with the outright market. Like I was seeing Blaney out there 9-1 towards open, and now he's closer to 7.5-1. I've been seeing a lot of movement very quickly. What were your overall impressions of the books, the offerings, the odds that we have this week?
In a word, meh.
In a word, in 3, whatever you got.
Meh. Just
Yeah.
not over, not yeah. It didn't. Nothing really jumped off the page to me personally, but I can be wrong. I've been wrong before, and I feel like the market is so tight because of what Kyle Larson did last week. Now, if you said Blaney opened at 9 in some spots, 9-1, great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's a phenomenal price to get a guy like that. Where I just said that he had he's finished an average finish of 4th place here in the last 6 races. So I mean, if you're able to get a guy like that 9-1, there's a lot of questions. I think William Byron right now, if you can get him at 8-1, that's probably your best bet on the board, in those shorter numbers, shorter prices. So, but at like some weeks, it's like this was mispriced. This was mispriced. This week, it was like, okay, kind of what I thought it would be.
I we'll talk about it, but I was expecting a lot shorter odds for Kyle Larson. I know he hasn't been dominant here, but coming off the win he had at Las Vegas and just his overall prowess on these short tracks, I was expecting a little shorter odds. But so I was happy there, and that is kind of my first outright of the night. Derek, is Kyle Larson. I'm down 1.5 units on it. I'm also on the top 5, doing a little bit of a ladder there, plus 120 at Bet Rivers for that. I'm going unit there. 3rd, 4th, and 9th in the races he's finished here at Phoenix. Led 201 laps, finished 2nd and 1st in the stages in this race a year ago. 4th in the next gen total speed rankings here, and just an overall good driver on these shorter flat tracks. Give me a reason not to like Kyle Larson and not think he can keep up with it, Derek.
Give you a reason to not like Kyle Larson. That'd be a good question. That would be, man, if I could pull that out, that'd be great. I mean, Larson and the 5 team are phenomenal. And, I know I just said about a couple of minutes ago about, hey, the 5 team gets to use this as a test session. Well, let's put that on pause for maybe next week when they go to Bristol, because when you look at Phoenix, this has got to be a track where you came back from, you finished 3rd, 2nd behind the championship in the championship race. And this is a race where when you come back in November, you want to have all your I's dotted, T's crossed, ready to go. So I feel like there's going to be a championship caliber, delivery from this team. And we used to talk about this way about Kyle Busch when he was with the 18 team. You give this man more practice. That is a scary thing for the rest of the field, because I don't think there's a better duo in NASCAR than Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson. So I'm sorry, Seth, I can't talk you out of it.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. Are there any outrights that you can talk our listeners into? I know you mentioned William Byron out there floating around 8-1 at most shops. Is there anything else that catches your eye?
The only other thing that catches my eye, figure out what your best price is right now on, a guy like Tyler Reddick, who I know maybe Reddick, his statistics haven't always been the best here. Last spring, he finished third. This guy started about mid-pack. If I remember, I had a top 3 ticket on him, and that came through. Big reason because of the end, but still, this is a guy that is going to keep trending upwards. And Troy SC, our guy in the chat, mentioned the same thing. So I really like that. I'm going to look to get invested on some of these Toyotas that are priced a little higher, 10-1 and above. And I feel like because Larson, I want Larson. If I'm going to be invested in some of these guys, I want Larson to go out and pull it. I want Larson to go out and do well in practice. It's only going to bring the odds shorter for him, and it's going to make it a little bit more better for us post practice and qualifying. So that would be the conversation I would have. I mean, I don't want to get bogged down on some of the single price guys. I'm looking at that JGR group that's 10 to 1 and greater.
Okay. Interesting. I like the perspective there. And dude, it's still moving out there. Like I was on just yesterday, 6.5 to 1 for Kyle Larson. He's down to 6 to 1 is the max you're going to get him. Ryan Blaney down to 7 to 1 now.
Yep.
I jumped on him at 7.5 to 1, and I still do like Blaney for that price, Derek. I know we don't want to get too bogged down with some of these single digits, but Phoenix finishes second, fourth in the next gen era. And when you actually look at, like, I know a lot of people don't want to take the Busch Light Clash as a serious race, but I do consider a shorter flat track. And Blaney fucking takes the provisional, gets in there, gets in the back of the line, moves his way up to third. Like, I think no matter where Blaney starts, I expect him to qualify well because he usually does here at Phoenix, usually one of the top qualifiers. So I want to get in now. I want to beat the market to it. But I don't care where the hell this guy's. I don't care if he starts all the way here in Pennsylvania and has to drive to Phoenix during the race. Ryan Blaney is going to work his way up through the pack.
I don't disagree. We used to always say that Ryan Blaney is that guy that just can't, once he gets back in traffic, he can't really fight his way up. But I feel like we can't say that anymore. So maybe your 7 to 1 price, if you can still get that, viable. I took some action on some longer shot guys.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, Reddick, got him at 18 to 1. Jumped on Chris Buescher at 20 to 1.
Wow.
I just laid a little bit of coin, just a little bit on Josh Berry at 75 to 1, just in hopes that maybe he qualifies better. We can maybe sell that price or sell that ticket when it gets to the race. If maybe practice didn't go the way we want, but the qualifying did. So there's some guys there that I took some chances on that I just want to have a little bit of edge, or at least an attempt to have an edge going in to Saturday for practice and qualifying.
Perfect. Derek, you and I had totally different mindsets coming to this week because I just took all the chalk. I couldn't help myself with the chalk with Ross. I even took a little slice at Ross, William Byron. Like, there are more FOMO bets because, like, I have the mindset that I would be stunned, Derek, if one of the top 4 or 5 guys that we had on our big board here didn't win this. Like, do you think there's an actual possibility these other guys could potentially win it, or are you more playing the numbers here, you think?
No, I think I'm playing some of the numbers, but what my strategy is, and I'm going to get invested on the top. I think Ryan Blaney. I think you have convinced me. I called out Byron. I don't hate those 2 prices. Chastain's at 9 to 1. So then you got to figure out who's going to qualify well. Blaney, Byron. Essentially, we're going to say that. But what I want to do is I want to be able to buy in on some of these guys that have a higher ticketed number. I'm higher on Reddick. I'm probably not going to sell that. I'm probably going to keep that. But if Buescher comes out, from 20 to 1 and starts at 10 to 1, I probably move that price. I probably sell that because there's probably going to be some guys that are doing a little bit better. Barry's the other one where if he comes out and everybody going into Sundays talking about this is Kevin's car, this is Kevin's team, like that conversation. Now I've sold that. I've made money on that, and I can get more invested over the top on guys like Larson or whoever I'm not invested yet that have shorter odds, or get invested in other markets. I do like this week as well, given it is a short track. I like the win top 5 matchup. You called it a ladder. I love that. So let's do that. So I like that, matching that up, because a place like this is more predictable in what we're able to do. However, it's not guaranteed. And it is still an entertainment business. So you always have to keep that part of it in mind. So
Great
I
point.
like both our strategies, but I really like the opportunity this week and maybe being able to sell a little bit more so than most weeks going into race weekend. Sunday, I should
Yeah,
say.
no, I like it a lot. Let's look at some placement props. Is there anything
Sure.
that has caught your eye here, Derek? I have more chalk for you, but I'd love to hear if there's anything sticking out to you. Like, definitely some interesting numbers in the top 10 market. If you want to take a shot on a guy like Josh Berry, he has some pretty decent odds out there. Plus 275 for a top 10. Gragson in that 3-1 range as well. And even plus money on guys like Brad and Chris Buescher, that you were a little bit higher on as well.
I was hoping to see a number of 3-1 or higher on Barry, and that's probably what
Okay.
I would have paid for it.
Okay.
So he came in a little shorter than that. I don't have any. I don't have any props at the moment, only because those prices aren't going to move a ton
Mhm.
for me right now. I really want to get invested in looking at some of the head-to-head props. We talked about it at length on the show last night, the NASCAR betting preview show. A number of things guys were on, but we saw it also the week before, where a number of guys were on a certain play or a certain thought process. And I really want to kind of see what when these shows, ours included here tonight, really start getting released to the public, kind of what that market movement looks like. Maybe I'll be able to get Barry at a 3-1 eventually.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I'm kind of waiting this week, which is
Mhm.
unlike most weeks.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I like the call a lot, and I'm I have a question for you, and
I got an answer.
you're someone who's been around these streets for a while. How do you feel
Oh,
about the new offerings that Caesar's putting out right now? I
I
took
love
the
them.
bait once again. They're offering these different like already paired together parlays. They've done this in
No,
the past, but now they're really doing it. How do you feel about like a Larson Byron or Larson Blaney top 5 parlay, or a Byron Larson and Blaney top 10?
I,
That's where I
I,
went with this.
yeah.
I found a little value. Is that too risky for you?
I hate manufactured parlays. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. I hate them almost like getting sick, kind of a thing.
Well, Blaney's in
Um,
every damn one of them, so they might have
well,
suckered me right
no,
in.
you are right. I think they probably got you right in just in case something like that happens. When it comes to like all finishing top 10, I get it. Like Larson Blaney, like you said, plus 155. But it's also in this order, is it not? Because
No,
uh, okay,
not in this order. So for this, I would just need Larson and Blaney both to be in the top 5. That's plus 280,
oh,
almost 3-1 on that.
okay,
And then
okay.
Byron top 10, Larson top 10, Blaney top 10. That all parlayed together is plus 110. So, still plus money, but you're
Death.
close to even for
I hear what you're saying. They made this for you.
they
they,
did.
they made this exactly for you. But that's my personal opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not out betting. I'm not going out to bet these markets because you're saying to me that to finish top 10, and I'm going to just choose a random one here, plus 200, Blaney, Larson, Logano, 2-1, and I have to have 30% of the top 10 at 2-1.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit in just my estimation. So no,
Mhm,
I'm not running
mhm.
out to bet those quite yet. But you did mention some of the other markets where they are starting to offer more things. Margin of victories one, race goes to overtime, average race speed. Actually, SC, I got to call him out because he mentioned it on his Twitter account where he said, "Hey, looking at the average speed of the race, that's
Yeah.
something." I mean, so I love this. This is getting to those elements where we've been just talking about at length for 2 years plus when it comes to this Gen 7 era and really this betting era. As you know, you've been part of it for that long, if not longer, where we've been asking the books, give us more. If F1 has every single
Yeah.
bet in the world. They have practice. They have
Yeah.
who's going to get to the track first, who's going to go out, who's going to wreck, who's going to go here, like they have everything. Well, NASCAR is the same thing, and it's going to garner more views. It's going to garner more money coming in. We're not at elite levels yet, but I love the offerings, especially that a book like Caesars offers. And I know they're not the official partner of NASCAR, but they are the official partner of the betting community.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out Caesar's doing the Lord's work over there, man. Like, even the driver over unders, they've been taking them
Yeah.
away, especially here in Pennsylvania. I didn't even see them last week, and then I saw them earlier this week. They got juiced to hell real quick, and then they took them off. But in general, like I appreciate what Caesars is offering, and like Bet Rivers is at least coming in with some very, very respectable lines as well. So shout out to those two books. I did quickly want to get your opinion on one other bet that I was interested here. Actually, let's go to matchups first. Let's go to matchups first. I'm
I feel
seeing.
like I crushed you. I feel like I crushed you with the last segment
No,
there.
no, you're
All
good.
right, good.
You're good. A lot of my placement props are pretty much all those, like I took the Larson top 5 chalk.
Yeah.
It's all in my article that you guys can check out over there
Yep.
on Betting Pros, but took a couple of those parlays, wanted to kind of dance with that again and see if I could get back in the ring after, like last week, I got burned because I went Bell with them, and I try to stack on Bell. But let's go to matchups and groups. Was there anything that stuck out to you? Because I found nothing that I honestly really wanted to get invested in. We have Troy in the chat saying he likes Briscoe over Busher. I think like on the surface, like you saw Troy, you saw where I put Chase Briscoe. To me, he's a B-level driver. I like him a lot this week. I also like Busher though, and like I'm just worried that Briscoe falls back at the end like he always does this year. Like Derek, he's been running great. Do you like this bet here from Troy? Could you get behind it? And any other placement or matchups that you like?
Well, not against Troy, but the only reason why I wouldn't is because I said I'm on Busher
Yeah.
outright. So
Yeah.
I believe in Busher a little bit more than Briscoe. Might be closer than I anticipate that matchup, but that's just me personally.
Yeah.
One matchup that I do like. Actually, let's state this is perfect. Troy, you must have been reading my mind, so I appreciate that. I've liked what Caesars has been offering sometimes when they do team bets.
Yes.
Like who's going to be the top finishing. So let's go right to what Troy is asking, and I'm going to go with RFK versus Stuart Haas. RFK at minus 120 might be my favorite bet going into this weekend.
Wow.
From a head-to-head standpoint. Now it's a team, but I really believe in what Busher's going to be coming out of the gates with. And I know you got 2 drivers versus 4. Take out Priest, take out Gregson.
Mm-hmm.
So really you got Barry and you got Briscoe. And so head-to-head there. We know this is a tier 1 team in RFK. There's a lot of stuff being pulled right now with Stuart Haas. So I like the RFK side at minus 120 to just have a better finishing car from that team. Troy's giving me a wow. So I don't know if that's a wow bad, wow, but good. I'm not sure. Probably bad. Really? Oh, yeah. I'm being serious, Troy. I see you typing in there.
It's interesting because outside of having Busher as a leverage play in a couple lineups already, I haven't given much thought in the betting market to RFK this week. But I mean, dude, he had a great run. He had a great run in the fall, and he's good at these shorter flat tracks. So not a bad call out there at all. I do want to move to some special markets here to round out the show, Derek. And I did get invested with Chevy plus 130. I thought that for everyone we talked about, the Larsons, the Byrons, the Chastains, the Kyle Bushes of the world, they're all Chevys, man. And plus 130, I would have taken that all the way probably down to plus 125. And I saw at a lot of shops around plus 110, plus 105 even already early in the week. So I thought getting a little bit of a value there. That was on DraftKings. I got that there. It might be down a little bit more now, but plus 130. And then I also did hedge myself just a little bit. Like I'm not trying to get rich off these manufacturer winning bets. I usually like to hedge myself and just kind of fade one manufacturer, and I faded Toyota here because I do think if Ford wins, it's probably a Blaney win, so I'm probably good either way. But anything you liked in the special market or even any other series, Derek, that we haven't touched on tonight?
Yeah, so I'll say the only other market, and it's not been released yet. My favorite thing to bet weekly now is stage 1 head-to-heads. I for whatever reason, I feel like I've found an edge with those. Might just be on a little bit of a hot streak, but I've really found an opportunity to bet those and come out successful. So for anybody listening, maybe check around my channel at Derek Yoder _ on X. Closer to maybe noon on Sunday, might be able to have something for you. But I know Bet365 offers good stuff out there for everybody that's got a book over there, and
I
there's
wish.
some good. No, I know, but they offer. That's another book I was just thinking off top where they do offer that, and it's good to give some of that advice out. So I really like some of that stuff.
Okay. All right, man. I like that a lot. Any thoughts here? Like we're not really an Xfinity show or a truck series show. We don't normally touch on there. We do have the Xfinity race on Saturday. We do have William Byron, who's going to be in that number 17 Hendrick car out there. How do you feel about William Byron going off at 3-1? Would you be getting invested with him at all, or are you fading the Cup regular coming down and trying to steal one away from the Xfinity guys?
So I usually defer to my guy Mike Bachman at
Mike's great.
Mike MV Bachman on X, and he does my Xfinity show, so he's a guru that way. I mean, Byron, it's hard to say that you're going to be passing on a guy like that, dipping down into the Xfinity series, and just kind of looking at maybe some of the guys that are racing in that, maybe doing double duty or dipping in this weekend. It's going to be interesting to figure out, where you want to go. I think you mentioned a good thing there with Algar is probably my favorite. Every time we go to Phoenix, probably my favorite guy to bet. So maybe I'll find a head-to-head.
Okay.
He is so elite when it comes to Phoenix. So it's a guy that I love betting on when we go to this track. So maybe there's a head-to-head or something out there that I can get invested on him. Or with Byron coming down and kind of upsetting the apple cart, if you will, from a favorites perspective and price, we might be able to get a little bit better value on a guy like Algar from a top 3, top 5 number.
I like it. Yeah, I actually put out a little bit of a Xfinity card. I like Cole Custer a little bit. I'm dipping back into those waters again this weekend. But you can check that out on my Twitter. And then here's actually a great bet I'm also invested in. I don't think he has great track history, but Austin Hill top 5, he's 2-1 or higher. Yeah, I'm actually down on this one as well, Troy. I think I got him plus 225 earlier today on DraftKings. Austin Hill's just one of those guys, regardless of the track, man. He just kind of is going to be there at the end. He's always going to be there at the end. So
100%.
Getting a 2-1 on a guy like Austin Hill, he doesn't have the best track history here, but he is a consistent top 10 finisher, just not a top 5. So you're kind of just hoping for something to kind of swing his way on Saturday there.
For whatever reason, they hang these numbers with Austin Hill, and they did it all last year. It was like the most profitable bet I ever had, where plus money, plus 140, plus 150, 2-1, 3-1, whatever it was, bet it and forget it. I mean, hopefully, Troy, where you live, I hope it's a nice day outside. Just bet that and walk away. But he's been able to do that at so many different tracks, road courses, mile and a halfs, obviously. If he's going to back into a top 5, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, he finished 7th in both of those Xfinity races last year.
Knocking on the door.
So, yeah, he's right there, man. He is right there, and damn, he's just that guy, man. Austin Hill is that guy in the Xfinity series. Derek, I can't thank you enough, man, for taking time out of your busy Thursday and your busy week to join us here on the Backroad, man. Tell us where we can find you and how we can best support you and everything you have going on there with the NASCAR betting preview show, front stretch, all things go, everything you have popping off in the NASCAR world, my friend.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the time, Seth. I always appreciate talking with you and hearing some of your insights about this weekend. It gets my juices flowing, so I really appreciate you again having me on. So the best way, if you're new out there, to follow me on X at Derek Yoder _ You'll find me there. You'll find the NASCAR betting preview show at NASCAR BPS on X as well. You mentioned the All Things Go podcast. We talked about Brian Murphy a little bit, who I do the show with, and we just recorded a part of the episode tonight. We're going to do the rest of it tomorrow. I'm really excited about episode 50 for the show, so make sure you follow that. That's been a lot of fun, just getting his insights inside the sport. But the NASCAR betting preview show on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we've seen tremendous numbers the last really since Daytona. We've had all-time highs each week since that time, so it's been great. And doing the NASCAR betting preview show on your feed here on In Between Media, you talked about it, getting to 1,000 subscribers. We were trying to push that last night. You know what we might need to do? We might need to do a stream where there's some type of a 12-hour stream or something just to get subscribers for you. I would be able to champion that from the front and maybe do that to be able to knock that out if we could get enough participation and support there. So definitely give that a look, because we've seen really good numbers, so strong from what we compared to last year. And again, Seth, I just really appreciate you helping me out, support all the guys that support my show. And again, thanks for asking me to be a part of this.
Yeah, dude. Thank you, Derek, so much, man. I greatly, greatly appreciate your friendship and just your
Sure.
guidance in this industry, man. It's been a blessing, and we'll have to connect for a beer here offline very soon, my friend, and sweat out a couple bets together. How about it?
I'm in. You're right down the street, not too far.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you're checking out Derek's NASCAR betting preview show right here on In Between Media.
Yep.
Just go over, check it out from last night. And if you missed anything in this episode, go ahead and watch the replay. Thank you guys so much for being a part of our IBT family over here. Have a great weekend. Make it a profitable one out in Phoenix. Enjoy it. And until next time, you know what to do. Keep it in between. Thank y'all.